there, Sandra here from createinspain. When you think of stencils, you tend to think about stenciling on card fronts, but that's not all you can use stencils for. And you don't just have to use it with inks or paint or even pencils. Now I've got a stencil here, put that on the side, got a stencil here. This is the design that I did this weekend, and I will leave a link to the file down below. It's got 6 different pages in it with variations upon a theme, and this is a little bit of an optical illusion stencil. It was created by using just a diamond shape, and then I duplicated and rotated the diamond to make a flower shape. And then I put more than one of them together and more than one line and messed around a bit with them. And I've ended up with variations of this sort of thing. Now the weird thing about this is that if I tell you that there is a flower shape there, albeit sharp edged, you can probably see it. But if I hadn't told you that, what else would you have seen? Because it's quite interesting and it shows up quite a lot on this particular sample, I think, that it actually can look as though you've got lots and lots of cubes stacked up. And once your brain sees the cubes, it can't see the flower. Once your brain sees the flower, it generally can't see the cubes at the time. But it's a weird illusion. I've got some tacky glue on the back of here. I use my tack it over and over, slightly diluted, and I sponge it on with a flat sponge. And that's what keeps my stencils tacky if I'm using plastic stencils at all, and I don't always do them in plastic. Christmas decorations. Now this just happens to be, I'll put it on here so you can see it more easily. And if I zoom in, you might see it a bit better. There we go, you can probably see that better now. So, using a gel medium. This is a Liquitex one this time, gloss gel, so it's a plain gloss gel, nothing else to it. Again, it looks like a white, but it dries clear and it dries glossy. So I've got another disc here, which is just a plain acrylic disc with a hole in. And I've cleaned it off with some rubbing alcohol, and I'm just going to put it on this piece here so you can actually see where it is, because it helps. And I've picked up another random stencil. So this time I'm going to be using a watercolor brush pen. I'm going to put some colour on my tile here, like so, and just take some gel, like so. Now if you want to add glitter to it, you can. You can also add things like this faux gold flake. What I do is I put it in an old pepper or salt grinder, and then it gives a very, very fine kind of dust. Then you just put your stencil on and go over it. Now this is not a sticky stencil, so this one is probably going to move. But I'm just going to hold it roughly in place while I put the paste over the top of this. Trying to make sure that I do encompass the edges and trying to make it relatively even. Lift that up. That should go directly into some warm water because it's going to dry very, very rapidly, believe me. Take some tissue and just wipe that off. And use that to slide underneath there so I can pick it up a bit more easily. Now, if you've got bits on the edge, don't worry about it too much. Once it's dry, you can just pick that off the edge or use an emery board and take it off the edge. It's really not that much of a problem. What you will find, however, is that you've got some in the hole. So what you do to clear the hole is you get a cocktail stick. You think, oh yeah, I'd have realised that. But the mistake you'll probably make is to pick the cocktail stick up. Don't do that. Let it drop through the hole, and your hole is nice and clean. If you try picking it up, all the gunk which is on the bottom of your cocktail stick is going to go back in through the hole again. So you definitely don't want to do that. You can, if you want to, just give it a quick wipe on the edge, but you do risk smudging the rest of it. And so I tend to leave it to dry first, and I tend to put it onto something which is raised. So you can see, because I've wiped it, that edge bit is smudged. So I don't advise doing that, okay? Leave it to dry first. I mean, this is just a demo one, so I wanted you to see the perils of not leaving it to dry, because the chances are you are going to move something around the edge that you don't want to move. So pop it onto something that it can't stick to, ergo a raised surface no matter what it is, because the edge can't actually stick to that, and allow it to dry. It's not going to take that long before that is completely dry. Within about 10 minutes it will be dry to the touch, but still a bit soft. Let it dry probably for about an hour before you do anything to the edges. You can actually stencil onto acetate if you want to. I'm just going to clean this off before I go any further. For colouring your gel, you can use a lot of different things. But if you want a transparent effect like that, then you need to stick to watercolour. Don't make the mistake of using alcohol inks, because it does not mix well with acrylic gels. It goes gummy and horrible and you won't be able to do anything with it. I've used food colouring, as it happens, with this one. But if you have watercolour pens, watercolour paints, whether it be in tubes or blocks, whatever, not a problem. Basically anything that's watercolour based. So even if you've got children around with standard felt tip pens which are washable, that'll work fine as well. You can use anything like that to colour, and you can use all sorts of glitters. I believe, I haven't tried it, but I believe Liquitex actually do one which has got tiny little beads in it as well. But there's nothing to stop you adding beads to your mix if your stencil is big enough. You don't have to stick to acrylic discs. You could use wooden blanks if you want to. You can buy these in bulk. I've got a CNC, so I can actually cut my own, but you can buy them in shops quite easily. So there's lots and lots of different ways of making one basic gel look completely different. Also, if you happen to want to use just one gel and you want it to be opaque at times, then all you need to do for that is to put some pastel chalk into it. Now you could probably use normal kiddies chalk, but it probably doesn't have a great deal of pigment into it. But if you've got the standard artist sort of chalk pastels, you can use those. I have these chalk pastels which I bought from Lidl quite a few years ago. As you can see, I still use relatively little of them. They cost me something like $4.99. They last me a lifetime. But they are very, very good for tinting things. So you can pick a nice strong colour like this, for example. It's to one side. I'm just going to mix it up on a piece of scrap card so I don't have any clean up to do. And all you do is take a craft knife and you just scrape a little of the chalk onto that. I'm going to use this because I've got both my palette knives in the bathroom at the moment, having been washed. So get some of your gel and mix it in. Now this, because it is a chalk based thing, will make it go opaque rather than make it transparent, and that is the difference. If you've got gouache paints, that again will make it opaque. If you want the transparent look, you need water based, but you need transparent paints, which basically means watercolor or inks. If you want to make it opaque, then you need something which is naturally opaque anyway, and then that would give you a very nice colour, nice and easy to do. So you can see that you don't need a large variety of texture paste. So you can use whatever acrylic medium that you particularly like, and you can tint it however you want to tint it. As long as you have something to colour it with, you can just stick to one paste and you don't have to have a whole load of them, which is A, good for your pocket, and it's also good for storage space. You can also do your stenciling on fabric, and because this is an acrylic medium, you can use that to stencil on fabric too. So for example, if you have a canvas bag and you want to do some stenciling on that, you can use an acrylic medium on that. It doesn't make any difference. It will stick to the fabric, it'll be fine. I wouldn't recommend it for things that you are washing continuously, like t-shirts. It probably wouldn't do too well on that. It would probably end up cracking and maybe flaking off. I haven't tried it, having said that, but I would suspect that may be what would happen, because that's not what it's designed for. So there we are, that's various things that you can do with your stencils that you might not have thought of, and a couple of little tips along the way. Hope you found this useful. I'll see you again soon. Take care now.